Hi guys, welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. It is the video you've all been waiting for. We are finally here doing our analysis of Lost Records Bloom Rage, Tape 1 titled Bloom. Jack, we've been waiting for this game for a while. It's finally come out. I mean, I'm just going to ask you a general question. Did you enjoy the game?
Yes, with an asterisk. So let's just start off with a little bit of a negative, I guess. For me, I'm going to so far say, obviously I'm bearing this in mind that this is half of a game, so it could well improve. But for me, this is like a middle of the road average game at the moment. Obviously, as we go through, later in the video, we'll see why, like the sort of pros and cons that I have with this particular game. But I think ultimately the damning thing is that I know that Tape 2 comes mid-April, and I'm low-key happy to wait until then, which I think says a lot. So I'm not going to go as far as to say that, no, this is awful, like The Expanse. But nor am I sat there thinking, oh, this is the best thing that Don't Nod have done. So... Sorry everyone that's fans of this game, but mate, have you got like a warmer sort of reception to it?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, I think, there's no shying away from the fact that I feel this is very similar to Life is Strange. And I feel like on this channel, I'm probably more the Life is Strange guy, right? Like, I feel like we both share Supermassive. I feel maybe you're more into Telltale than I am, but, I am quite a big fan of, like, Don't Nod. But you know what, mate? I agree with you. I really like this game. I really like Tape 1. But yeah, there's a lot that doesn't quite land. And I think Tape 2 has to do a sterling job to kind of make it an exceptional game if it was. So yeah, like your points are completely valid. Guys, one thing I just want to say before we proceed into the video where Jack and I are going to talk about our overall choices and we're going to compare what we did. I just want to warn you that this is a spoiler video, so if you've not played the video game, I strongly urge you to break away and play it, and then to come back to this video where you can enjoy all of our choices and, our deep dives on the characters and the story, etc., etc. You have been warned. So, Jack, we are just going to dive straight into the choices that we get at the end screen. So it starts off before you go into kind of the actual game choices. It has a bit of the relationship dynamic, which, is a theme throughout. Like every dialogue interaction you have, you can heartbreak people, you can befriend them. How did your game look with Nora, Kat, and Autumn?
So for Nora, we're BFFs. With Kat, we're cool. And then with Autumn, it says new friend.
Okay. Interesting. So for me, Nora, it says new friend. Kat, it says something more. It's a bit of a romantic, road with Kat actually. And Autumn, I have new friend. And under present, obviously, we will go into it, but Kat isn't in this one. Nora, I have former friends. I wasn't quite able to get above that. But with Autumn, we're fully tight again. We are under reconnected. How does your future friendships look, mate?
Yeah, so Nora, former friends, and Autumn reconnected. But damn, there's some romance in here, is there? Because there are a couple of moments where I think you can kiss characters or something, but I just completely missed that, or maybe it comes with the new dialogue feature. But okay, there's a little bit more to it then. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I think maybe because I got on really well with Kat, and then when you have the exclusive Kat chapter where you're doing the makeup before the concert, there was a little choice that popped up, so maybe I unlocked it because I was really close with Kat. Right, we'll go into the choices. The big one, Jack. This is the main one. This is the bread and butter. Mm-hmm. Did you go for pumpkin, shadow, or snowy, mate?
I picked pumpkin. And I've got to admit, I did see this poll on our channel before I jumped into the game, and I did see the pictures, and I'm just a fan of ginger cats, so I did pick pumpkin. I'm guessing you picked shadow, right?
Yeah, I do. So as some of you are aware, I've newly adopted 2 black kittens. There's that whole myth that black cats are bad luck. I was yeah, I've got to break away from it and to represent my cats. So I had Shadow in this game, so sorry if there's any snowy lovers out there. But yeah, we've got a pumpkin and Shadow in this analysis. So next choice, lad, is just how we react to Dylan and Corey when we're supposedly filming them. It says that I was neutral rather than apologetic or aggressive. How are you?
So I apologised. The reason being is that because you have the red balloon that gets stuck in the fence, and she's having a go at you, and then the red balloon like just then becomes disconnected and flies off. I thought to myself, there's no point me trying to explain that there was a red balloon. So I just sort of took like almost like the more mature thing and just went, oh, so say sorry to her and just try and end the conversation there. Because if I tried to overdo it with the whole red balloon, she just called BS on it. So yeah, that was my rationale for that one.
Yeah, I kind of was just like, well, you're not choosing to believe me, so fuck you a little bit. But I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to be completely aggressive here. Don't want to burn too many bridges. Did you retrieve Autumn's keys, lad?
I did, and I felt so happy with this one. Because I'll mention this now actually, because it is one of the things I've got written down. But I think one of the reasons why this game, or why this sort of tape I should say, can drag out as long as it does is because you've almost got to explore the environment twice in a way. Because one, you've got to look down the camera for when you're getting all the collectibles and the things for like the memoirs and stuff. But obviously you need to be away from the camera as well to see what things you can interact with in the world. So I thought when I saw this hole in the ground, and then I saw that the keys could fall in, I put the cardboard there, I was proper chuffed with myself because I thought this could be super interesting for what the choices, if ultimately when you get the keys you could lose them, what that would bring further down the line. So yeah, I was pretty chuffed with myself on that one. You do get an achievement as well, didn't you, if you interact with the keys with Autumn in the modern day.
Yeah, same here. I got pretty fortunate because I didn't actually find Autumn's keys on the rocket thing till quite late. So naturally I was exploring, looking at the ground, and there was the cardboard there. So yeah, I kind of got that one naturally. So I got that on my first play as well, which I was pretty happy about. Next one here, did you decide to drink alcohol in the past?
I decided not to, apparently, because I assumed that a lot of the decisions I took were almost based from Swan's point of view, and I was like, I don't think Swan would be at this point. She's just getting to know these people, so I thought I'd play it a little bit coy, and I was like, no, she won't be drinking.
No, and likewise, to be honest, not much to build on from what you had. I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to drink either. But later on, I saw in one of the cutaway scenes she was smoking a cigarette. So I was like, okay, maybe I underestimated this one, girl.
Yeah.
Next choice, lad. Did you lie about your music taste to fit in?
No, I didn't. Because I thought that they've accepted me in already. I'm a little bit quirky and awkward and shy, and I've got a camera and I'm going around filming stuff. So if they've accepted me on that basis, it would be really a dick move to say, oh, I'm not into your music, and then they shun you. So I thought, you know what, they're quite open-minded, I'm just going to tell them the truth.
Yeah, no, I mean, same here, mate. I also I think this was in the trailer, or one of the gameplay trailers, and I knew it had repercussions, so I was like, yeah, like you say, they're an accepting group. Why lie? How did Nora and Kat's kiss go in the music video for you?
It says you made Nora and Kat exchange a real kiss for the music video. So yeah, I made them go the whole hog.
Oh, I did a pretend one, and I don't know how it was for you, but Kat seemed pretty pissed at the time, and I had to kind of apologise to her afterwards, and I was like, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And then she said something along the lines of, no, I just felt really awkward and I'm scared it's going to look bad on your video. So it was for that reason, potentially. We know Kat's quite a secretive character. I just wanted to know, were there any repercussions for your choice there, mate?
That does ring a distant bell, but I don't remember it being that big of a deal. Kat was certainly awkward and more hesitant. Nora was just more up for it. But yeah, they did kiss, but there was no sort of big deal. I think Nora made a joke afterwards saying, oh, you taste disgusting or something along those lines, or you taste nice, But yeah, I'm pretty sure she was just a little bit awkward at the time, and then it just swiftly moved on.
Fair play, lad. And who did you name as the best actress?
I picked Kat, mostly because at this point I'd most interacted with Nora and Autumn the most. So I was like, you know what, let's set a foundation with Kat to get that relationship going, and hence why I picked her for that one.
Yeah, I picked Kat as well purely because, like I said in the last choice, I felt she was a little pissed, so I wanted to pep her. Like, nah, you did a good job. You were a good actress. Even though that's a lie. Like, it was clearly Nora. She gave the most energy on that fake stage there. But yeah, I went Kat as well. A bit of a nothing choice, lad. For Thorn's Curse or Thorn's Rest?
Thorn's Rest for me.
Oh, I think that one sounds better, but I just went Thorn's Curse. I'm a bit of a morbid bloke. I was like, yeah, let's go. Yes, hell yeah. And yeah, no, I quite like that one. So we're on page 3 now of the choices. What kind of piercing did you suggest that Nora should get?
I said eyebrow. Now, on a personal level, I'm not massive on piercings, to be honest with you. And I feel like of the 3, between lip, eyebrow, and nose, that eyebrow is the least. What's the word I'm looking for?
The most subtle, maybe?
Yes, that is what I would say. It's the most subtle.
Yeah, that's fair. I said lip because I'm a lip piercing guy myself. And I don't know if this has bearings on the future, but when you meet adult Nora, she actually had a lip piercing, so I don't know if that changed for you. But I was like, if that is a choice that actually does have an effect there, I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, I was really happy with that. Blood Ritual, did you join in, mate?
I had no chance. This was the point where I thought, what is up with Kat? Like, she's got an edge that I did not see coming. And then she's cutting her finger open, and then I'm like, whoa, no, roll it back. Like, things were going good. What are we doing now? So I was like, nah, I full on refused to join in on that.
That's fair, mate. I joined in. I was like, yes, Kat, I'm all for it. Let's do the Blood Ritual. So yeah, I don't know. I just was like, yeah, I'm down. It's an adventure. Whether I do it in real life, I don't know. Bloody Mary, lad. Did you play it? And if so, did you go through with it?
I did. This stank of this could be an achievement. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And it's also one of those little playful things where you don't think there's going to be massive repercussions from it. So I was like, yeah, I'll just go along with it. What about you?
Oh, I chickened out. I was like, I've seen, way too many horror films. I'm like, you don't fuck with this shit. I'm like, I'm not saying it. But funny enough, like, I did it a few times, but like, I think I got distracted on the stream and I didn't hear that you had to get to 13, which was an unlucky number. So I think I got to about like 12 and then was like, oh, nothing's happening. And I saw an option to leave and I just took it. So later I learned that there was a trophy, so I had to go back and get that one. But yeah, I chickened out on that one. But more out of boredom or more out of just the fact that I just was like, oh yeah, I can leave, nothing's happening. Songs, mate. Vengeance or Justice?
Vengeance. This was really through Kat's energy, because she seemed to be the one to take the lead at that particular moment with like the song lyrics and stuff like that, and she seemed to be really pent up by this, whole situation with Corey and Dylan, which I'm sure we'll get to like when we discuss it later on. But I don't know, in my opinion, it was obviously a nasty thing what they did to Swan, but for that level of anger and resentment and all of this like negative energy to be channeled their way, I was really sort of surprised by that. And I feel like Justice would have maybe felt a little bit too soft, so I was like, no, go on, like, she's really going for it, let's pick Vengeance.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe a bit of a nothing choice. I just went Justice. I think, I just, the moment I saw the word, I thought Batman. I was like, hell yeah, I'm picking Justice. It's like, what did you wish for at the Abyss, mate?
I wished for strength, and this was based on Swan's character, really, because she seems a little bit awkward around people, so I thought, you know what, that's probably what she would want.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I was like, I went freedom. I don't know, like, I mean, probably didn't need to go for freedom since she's moving to Canada soon out of the USA. So some of them are political on the channel. But nah, like, yeah, I don't know. I just thought freedom. I think maybe I went away from what Swan would pick, and I was like, that's what I would go for. So yeah, I don't know. I just went freedom. Apparently, so I'm gonna just say off the bat what I did in the next one. I wasn't violent towards Corey when he tried to take Kat home. I didn't know you could be violent, so I need to see what happens when you are. I was just filming him the whole time, and I'm like, what? You can be violent? I don't know what you did there, mate.
I was violent, but I can't really remember, other than sort of shouting expletives at him, what I did. Did I throw something at him? I don't necessarily remember you getting into a scuffle or anything like that, but that's what I've got written down here. It says that I was violent, so it probably is a bit of a nothing choice. I don't know if anything really comes of it.
Verbally violent.
Yeah.
Who did your makeup for the concert, mate? So I think for this one, it's just whoever you're closest to towards the end of the game will do your makeup for you.
Yeah, which I really liked. It was only when you said that earlier that Kat did your makeup, I was like, wait, what? I thought Nora always did it, because Nora did my makeup. And this is where it sort of comes to the point of like another thing I wanted to bring up, which is the whole dialogue thing, which we did know Don't Nod said they were going to do. They were going to shake up the dialogues in this. But with this game, I found there are several instances where you maybe get two options and then the conversation carries on a little bit more, and then like a third or fourth will then pop up. And this was one of those instances where I went and picked an option as another one popped up. So I didn't get the kiss with Nora. She was saying, oh, come closer. And I was like, oh, closer? Like sort of like playing along. And then next thing you know, she then gets interrupted by Autumn or something like that, and she pulls away. So I didn't get that romantic moment with her.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll let you know, no romantic happens, you get cut off either way, but I think it's just more that like the intention was there is what they're going for. But yeah, I got Kat, and someone in the stream let me know that they had Autumn in their version, so it's really cool that like, like we go on about these choice-based games, you want there to have future effects and consequence and different branching. And although, yeah, the game is quite linear, the same way Life is Strange 1, it is really cool to see, there are still, some minor branching, and especially with the relationships, which is really cool, because that is something that maybe Life is Strange was a little bit weaker on, maybe. So it was cool to see it, but then again, I guess it is easy to do with the fact that there is a group dynamic in this game. Later on, like, we're towards like the twilight of the choices here. How did you break through the fence to start your concert? Did you open the padlock or did you use brute force?
No, I used the padlock because I feel like the temptation was like literally right by the gate. You've got the phone, haven't you? And you can like ring, is it Dylan up or something to like get you in, or you can find a tool to smash your way in. But I didn't, like, you know me, I'm naturally someone that explores these environments, so I found the thing in the back of Corey's bike, and then it was just a matter of relaying that on the padlock, and then we just walked in easy.
Yeah, no, same here. I'm lucky that I was streaming it, because good old Felicie wrote the code down for me. I definitely forgot it, so yeah, good on chat for remembering that one for me. And the last choice we have, lad, did you take blame for planning the concert?
I did. And this one, because actually, like, looking back at my characters, you could say that Kat is the one that I'm least close to, right? But she did do us a favour at the very start of the game when she jumped in when you was getting, like, low-key bullied from Corey and Dylan. So I thought, time to repay the favour. I'll stick my neck out and say it was my fault.
Yeah, I felt the same. Like, reward Kat back, and also, like, considering the twist in the situation, that was like, be a bit of a dick of me to kind of just blame her, while she's going through a medical crisis or whatever. But also the choice just stunk of like, Max taking the fall for Chloe's joint in Life is Strange 1 episode 1. So I was like, yeah, I'd rather just kind of like keep the bridges built with my friends. So yeah, Jack, those were the choices. I was just gonna say, should we just talk about the big kind of ending, mate? Like, the whole thing with Kat. I just want to kind of get your thing, because you played the game in increments, and I kind of got to hear your thoughts in little intersections of kind of like, oh, something's going on with Kat here. And I felt the game was pretty cool, how like you meet Autumn, so you're like, okay, she's going to be okay. And I kind of had this mindset of, I wonder if we lose one of the characters in the past. And then it's like they mention, oh, Nora's the big shot now in California. So I'm like, okay, Nora's safe, then you eventually meet with her. But Kat never shows up. And then in the past timeline, as you've already mentioned, Kat kind of starts having a bit of like a darker turn. The way she's almost like looking possessed by this abyss, the way she like goes missing in the middle of the night, does the blood acts more and more intense. Like, has these screaming matches with her sister and Corey. I just wanted to ask, did you kind of like, what did you think was happening with Kat, throughout the game? And did you call the big twist?
I genuinely didn't know what was going on with Kat. I sensed that something would happen to her, mostly because of the modern day timeline. We meet up with Autumn. To be honest, it was a really nice surprise when we met up with Nora, because for some reason I thought it was just going to stay as Autumn throughout the game, but it didn't. But as soon as Nora then turns up, I thought, well, okay, maybe something is going to happen with Kat. And those scenes did start to coincide with Kat starting to behave differently and such. So I was like, okay, we probably will get something happen with Kat here. And then you get like the wishing well or the abyss, whatever you call it. And I thought, okay, and this is a potential theory. Is it going to be that she dies and then they potentially wish her to not be dead in the take 2? We'll have to see. So yeah, like the whole leukemia thing, sure, I didn't really, expect that. As far as her like collapsing and stuff, it served for like quite a dramatic ending, especially after like you were rocking out like to your tune and whatnot. But yeah, it's left with more questions than answers, is how I'd sum it up best, lad. How about you?
Yeah, fair play. I mean, I didn't call the twist whatsoever. Me in the chat theorised that something's going on with Kat at home because of how aggressive she is with Dylan and Corey. And I always had this underlying feeling of like, I don't think Dylan and Corey are necessarily bad people. I think they're looking after their sister, but they're potentially doing it the wrong way. But if you play the game back, there were a lot of breadcrumbs about the leukemia, and they went completely over my head, and I thought it was written exceptionally well. So, like, for example, there's the whole, just the generic her living life to, like, the fullest, being the most intense person in the group, pretty much being the one that, pushes the group out of their boundaries to do adventures and stuff. There's her being at the abyss saying the words, "I'm literally fucking dying here." That went over my head. And then, like, there's all these, like, tiny ones as well about, like, how, like, when you're filming her, sometimes she says, like, "Oh, I'm feeling really tired." Every now and then she'll start coughing. I missed all of this. And another big one as well is that, at one point before you go and meet the girls in the cabin that you find in the woods, you can choose to call one friend. Now, I chose to call Kat, right? And now Kat tells you this whole thing, like, oh, here's a secret, because I gather they will tell you a secret. Kat says, like, oh, don't tell Nora I said this, but she says your deodorant doesn't work for you, that you smell. And I was like, all right. And then, like, when you go to the cabin, there's an option to say, Nora, do you think I smell? Even though Kat like begs you not to say. So I like left it as it was. I'm like, I'm not going to stir the pot here. But when I replayed it, I wanted to do something differently. So I rung Nora, and Nora's secret to you is, oh, Kat's period came on early, and she bled her clothes, and she had to change the minute she got home. Now I looked into it. Apparently, early periods can be a sign of like cancer. So, like, I guess if you get that choice, there's all these little breadcrumbs. And I don't know if, like, you caught on to any of them, or if you thought, like, her saying words like, oh, I'm literally fucking dying here, her coughing in speeches. But I don't know, mate. I fucking missed it big time.
You know what? I'm not very clued up on leukemia. So all of these things did go over my head. The one that perhaps stood out the most is the one where she says, I'm literally fucking dying. And that was more for me as a nod to, right, so could that be a potential foreshadowing hint that she's going to die? And then that's when my theory comes in of them using the wishing well to bring her back. But no, look, we've seen this with Life is Strange, Don't Nod, and even like other games they've done. I really like building games that have like this magical realist, supernatural quality, but they merge it with very real world issues, right? Or real world things that affect people. And I feel like that's just characteristic of them. And obviously they've done a very good job with like writing these things within the story. And it would be good to see if there is anyone out there that can somewhat relate to it and see like if they appreciated what Don't Nod did as well. But do you know what I mean? Like that has given me a certain level of appreciation for it, because I was in the dark before, but now actually, do you know what I mean? That is like good writing on their part.
Yeah, massively so. And I know one thing I just kind of wanted to like end this little mini section on is just kind of like, and we will do this more in like separate videos, but I just wanted to theorize for take 2 a little bit. Do you think Kat is dead, mate?
Yes, I do. And I think that is what take 2 is about, the umming and ahhing. Because I mean, we've spoke about this a little bit already, haven't we? That Kat dropped a pin with a cat on it into the abyss, right?
Yes.
And we're assuming that the abyss is almost like a give and take thing, you know. So it's a very dark theory, but they've put so much emphasis on your cat, right, and what your cat's going to be. I just have a hunch that maybe, and it could be a little bit on the nose, to bring Cat back, that maybe Pumpkin, or in your case Shadow, needs to be thrown into the abyss, which would be very dark, and it would be a very interesting choice. So I don't know whether like Don't Nod would go there, but that's where I'm sitting with it at the moment. How about you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, if we think about it as the abyss being a wishing well, and I think we can kind of theorize on this because Swan arguably has more strength, more freedom. Autumn never made a wish, but Nora's was to be famous, and she is, right? In the future, she's a famous fashion designer. This wish was to get out of here. Now, you can kind of like sum that up in different ways, right? It could be very much like, oh, get out of here in terms of I don't want to be alive anymore. Or she wants to go somewhere else. Now, I don't know, I can just sort of like a cat go, you know, with the pin of a cat going down there makes me think that maybe like at some point Cat threw herself down the wishing well herself, maybe. So like I almost wonder if she almost went to the abyss, and whether it's like Stranger Things where there's an upside down or another side. And I don't know if like, and this leads into the second section here of like who sent the parcel, right? And I guess the biggest theory is, I mean, it might just be Cat, right? That Cat's somehow gone back through the portal into the present day, and she sent the parcel herself. I always go by that golden horror rule: if you don't see the character die, it means they're not dead. So far, we've seen her like collapse, nosebleed, and get pulled away in an ambulance or whatever, or like, you know, by Corey driving her away. So I almost don't want to say she's dead because it's not confirmed, but what a cliffhanger, and what a way to kind of like keep us in the dark for 2 months wondering if she's okay or not. So yeah, I'm gonna say that she's not dead, but I feel like the wishing well is the key here.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable, lad. I'll tell you what, while we're on the subject of characters, do you want to like share your thoughts on each of them, like even including like characters like the bartender and Pam from like the modern day?
Yeah, of course I can. So, you know, we put out a poll as well, didn't we? And I'm with the majority here. Kat's my girl. I thought she was incredible. And maybe there is a little element of feeling the effects of the end and feeling sympathy for her. But she was just such a ball of energy, and I love like the whole small girl, like, you know, don't underestimate her because she is a fireball. I loved her line delivery. Granted, I will say one little flaw of the game is that like the voice actress for her sounds like 30, 40, so she sounds like a fully grown adult if you used to shut your eyes. But I absolutely loved Kat's energy and her witty, sarky comments. Nora, brilliant. I came into this game thinking she was going to be a Chloe Price ripoff, but she's not. She's actually quite ditzy and kind of like light-hearted, but I really like that. Like, she's the one who's the most nervous to sit at the overpass bridge. So Nora was like really charming, really surprised me. I didn't think she would be written the way she was. You know how I always say it's really difficult to have like really enjoyable main characters because they've got to be fairly vague to kind of accommodate the player's choices. I thought Swan was really interesting. The way that she was like this like kind of nerdy bug girl, you know, who like was into movies, not music, didn't really fit in anywhere. I kind of like really felt for Swan, and granted, yeah, some of her dialogue really fucking cringe. I quite liked her. Autumn's probably my least favourite, even though I probably trust her the most because she's the most grounded and like level-headed of the lot, the most mature, arguably. But still, though, like I just felt like I wanted a little more from Autumn potentially. But still, though, I really liked her and how she kind of is in the present day. But in a weird way, yeah, I like the group as a four. I kind of resonate with them a little bit myself, having, a bit of an alternative edge, kind of, like finding a group of like-minded friends like that. So I kind of liked it. Not like the strongest, but I really liked all of them. As for the side characters, yeah, like Dylan and Corey, I really like what they did of making them look quite villainous, but actually they have good intentions. The barman, which you mentioned as well, I mean, he seems okay. I'm more intrigued by the girl, I think her name was Pam, who like studies like the supernatural. At one point they asked my name and I didn't want to give it because I was like, I have a feeling something's going to go down here. We've seen a police car out the window. I feel like something's going to go down in the present day soon. So I was acting quite vague and keeping my cards close to my chest. So I'll have to see for that one. I think that maybe something could go down with Pam and the barman, maybe, like whether they go against us at the end, I don't know. So yeah, how about yourself, mate?
Starting on that's the thing. I would love to offer up a theory that serves like the the modern day in terms of what's in the package, what the bartender and Pam, how they fit in, because even when you first walk in, it could be like friendly chit chat, but at the same time, like the bartender was it's almost like the Spanish Inquisition. Like some of the questions he was asking, it's like, okay, like, I just want to drink and sit and meet my friends, but you're. But then again, that could just be a typical community, villagey feel, that people are very chatty and want to know your business and that sort of thing. Look, with the characters, with the main four, I spent, 7+ hours with this game, which is roughly the length of, say, a DPA game. And I was hoping to have got more out of the characters considering the amount of time we spent with them. Sure, I can, roll off tropes. Swan, she's a bit of an introvert. She likes moths. She likes horror films. Nora, like you say, she's a bit ditzy. She doesn't like bugs. She likes rock music. Kat, she's into like feminist punk. She's a bit intense. Autumn, I do agree with you, is perhaps the one it's hardest to, nail something on with her. She's perhaps potentially the more neutral out of the entire group. But what I would say is that I think whether this is like a writing criticism, I do for some reason I can't quite see it between all four characters in terms of like the harmony and the relationships, even though we've had 7 hours with them. It's like you mentioned before with the dialogue, it is a little bit cringy, and I'm like, would friends speak like this to one another? And I get that they've just met, but I don't know, like speaking as someone externally trying to see where the rapport comes from, I just don't see it. It's almost like, if you want an analogy, it's like imagine downloading something, you get to 70% and then it starts buffering. There's like a 30% missing here between these characters, which I do hope gets resolved in like tape 2. Whereas the complete opposite with like the modern day, I really like the scenes where they're more mature. It seems that they seem to have that rapport. They seem to be just older in themselves, more wise, and they know why they're there, and there's like a little bit of tension in the air. I really buy into those scenes, but for some reason I just can't get my head past it with the characters, like the main four at least, in like the past. As far as Dylan and Corey go, yeah, like they've been set up of sort of the bullies, and then you've got like that twist at the end where actually they are looking out for Kat, because I do think the girls were a little bit hard on Corey, like when he ultimately come to get Kat, like towards the end of the tape. So yeah, I almost sit in a position where these characters aren't terrible, I'm not saying that, but I'm more intrigued by the plot than the characters, and it's a really weird place to be sat in, because I do sit with like, even in the modern day when the police car goes past, and even just like the dimly lit bar, it's very sort of dark, you've got this package in front of you, there's an air of mystery about it. Whereas for the vast majority of tape 1, you're getting to know the characters and like building rapport, and it takes way too long, I think, to get to the supernatural elements of this particular episode. But like I said, even reaching the end of it, I don't feel like that it's fully fleshed out character-wise. So I guess that's where my negative falls in on it.
No, and those are very valid points, mate. And, you know, I do agree with the majority of it. You know, like, one thing that really surprised me is that I came into this game thinking, like, my random assumption is that you would have a pre-relationship with Nora and Kat, and then Autumn was the outsider that would come in. But it's actually Nora and Autumn are the only two that know each other. You know, Swan rocks up, you know, kind of awkwardly at the ice cream bar and, you know, like, befriends them. And then, you know, obviously Kat steps in. So two of you are complete strangers. And this whole thing is like the summer of 95. And whether it's a criticism or not, I'm unsure. And I get like these supernatural events happened, which are always going to tie them together. But that means that like these girls would have like pretty much, well, at least, you know, for Kat and Swan's sake, only known each other for one summer. And I'm like, I just thought that this whole friendship thing would be like, you know, quite like a long established thing, but like it's just once. So we're talking like maybe 3 months. Like this is a school break, and you know they've got this connection. So I do agree, a lot of it just feel a bit weird in that sense. And you mentioned pacing as well, and I think that is one of the biggest criticisms this tape has had. And we will go into like the criticism of this, and I do somewhat agree with you, mate, because it's not like we're with Swan a lot solo at the start, getting to grips with like the camera, going around nature. Then we sort of meet them, and the abyss doesn't really come until the latter third, and then the big concert. And I remember when you were playing it, you were kind of umming and ahhing, uncertain, saying, "Are you not like in a rush to get back into it?" And I think I told you, "Oh yeah, I'd hold on," because for me, the final third is the best bit, you know. And I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I have heard a lot of rumblings that the pacing is the issue. I know someone's like made a big video about, oh yeah, tape 1 was real slow. And I guess it's true, like it's a 6 to 8 hour tape, right? And whether it could have got shortened or not, I don't know. But a lot of it did feel like a trudge. That if you replay it, there are certain chapters that you don't look forward to going through. I don't know if that's a fair assessment, mate.
It is a fair assessment. To almost like counter what I was saying, though, there are some really nice down moments. I am thinking in particular when you're like looking through nature, and it's a fantastic example of like getting to use the camera, which I feel like is a natural evolution from, you know, Max taking photographs in Life is Strange. It feels more fitting, and it's certainly more engaging than just watching a little cutscene of Max take a picture, you know. Whereas with this, we're actively holding up a camera, we're picking things out, it really relies on you being observant. And then you've got the added thing on top of that, where you can then craft your own film. Now, for me personally, I've not, apart from that, you know, a few achievements and whatnot, I've not gone into that too much with like making the perfect film. But it's a nice little feature for those that do, and it, you know, it gives you again that sense of character for Swan. It makes you feel more like her, so I'm all for it. But yeah, like I say, as for the pacing thing, I think I played this in 2 or 3 stints, and I was after a little while thinking, okay, like when are we going to get somewhere a bit more significant? So the second half, I think it's really when you find the cabin, that's when it starts to get more interesting, because there's almost like more horror elements that come into it. It's a bit more dark. You've got to look around, and then you start to get the supernatural things come in. So yeah, I feel like the pacing is a very valid criticism, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely think they went for the whole Stand By Me kind of like dynamic, where a lot of it is just, you know, a group of friends walking through the woods a lot, and whether you like that or not, it just depends whether that's your cup of tea, right? But you mentioned kind of like the gameplay, and I kind of want to go into that a little bit of like the whole filming dynamic. Now, admittedly, this might be where my bias comes in, because, you know, sometimes, like, for example, we talk about how you love LA Noire, mate, how that's just a game almost, like, tailored to you, where you get to be a detective. Yeah. It's set in 1940s, you know, where everyone's wearing, like, fancy suits and stuff, and I'm like, I mean, this is a game made for Jack. I look at this game and I feel like this might be the game that's made for me. Because if you think about it, you've got punk music, you've got like 90s and kind of like lo-fi and stuff. And then there's like filming and video editing. And I'm like, it's like someone looked at me and they're like, yeah, we're going to make a game for Liam. Which is why, like, from the trailers, I was just sold. And the fact that I have like kind of grown a little tired of some of Deck9 projects, and I was really excited to see Don't Nod go back in the limelight and make a game. So like the film element, admittedly at the start, I did find it quite like, I struggled to kind of understand. There was like some bits where it's like scenic views was one of the things you had to film. And it was just like these giant squares and I couldn't quite find the location. And then like you have to take like 6 like films or something of like graffiti, maybe 10, but it plasters you with like 40. And sometimes you have the camera and I felt really overwhelmed. There were just a million things to film and I'm like, I'm going to be here for ages. And I think in chapter 5 where you're going around the movie theatre, I was probably there for a solid like over an hour just trying to like find everything to film so I could 100% it. And like you mentioned again, mate, you have to explore locations twice, through the camera and off the camera. But it was a nice change. We speak about Life is Strange a lot because it is the kind of natural follow-up. When like Max had to take photos, admittedly double exposure improved it a little bit where you actually take photos. This game not only enhances it by making it you're filming for like this music band, but not only that, but you can edit the memoirs and stuff. And my favourite thing about it, mate, is the fact that the actual footage that you take later on can be seen through the TV. It's the actual footage that's used for the music video. And I actually just like, obviously as a video editor myself, I just really enjoy seeing stuff I film or kind of like edit and then putting it into a project so it can go out and be displayed in a certain way. And I don't know about you, mate, but I just absolutely love that whole kind of feature.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, I did have a little giggle to myself because sometimes my filming was woeful, like as bad as Linda from the casting of Frank Stone.
Yeah.
So, like, do you know what I mean? There was moments, like, especially that one where they're all gathered around watching on the TV, like what you put, and I'm sat there thinking, this is absolute shite. But they're all sat there going, oh, this is so good. So, like, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, I did have a little bit of a giggle at that. But the fact that they did implement that to give you almost as a player that sense of ownership, and again to make you feel more like Swan, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, and like we had a few other things as well on top of that, of just like kind of like exploring your room and kind of like, you got to pet a cat, which is always a plus. There's also like, it's a mode that I've looked at a little bit. I know you've not really seen it, but you do have a photo mode, which I find really cool. It's something we've not really had from any of these games yet, where you can kind of freeze, the frame in place, but then you can kind of have a free flow camera and you can take some really scenic shots or like some shots of the group, and you could later use them in your own projects. And then they have like all these different filters you can use as well. So like if you are more of a photographer than a videographer, it's cool that you've got that element as well. And I feel like Don't Nod went above and beyond in this one in terms of gameplay. We often say that these games, the story is, and the choices of where it's at. But I feel Lost Records does a really good job of holding down gameplay to keep you engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? While I'm thinking of this, while we're talking about gameplay, on this channel, one of my big criticisms is like, oh yeah, with Life is Strange, you hit Y and there's a little bit of dialogue and, that's it, you move on. There's so many things to look at and explore. You do get a little bit of that in this, but I think that's where the camera comes in and helps as like a different way of collecting things. And actually, to say that, the collectible mode is very good as well. Like, I think I had 8 or 9 achievements to get once I'd finished tape 1, and I was like, okay, let's go back and get the rest. And it only took me like half hour. So like collectible mode did an absolute solid on that front. But also, when you're exploring things, you can, like, especially like talk about Swan's room. I think she's got like a little tub of ibuprofen in there. And when you rotate the ibuprofen, it actually makes the sound of pills that moving around in like the little pot. which I thought was such a neat little detail. So you can see that there are certain things that they've, moved away from in terms of what they did with Life is Strange. And you know what? I think as time goes on, I'm like, it's, maybe I was a little bit harsh on this at the top. I think it's like the positives that I see, I do like, but I feel like the negatives stood out to me a little bit more. But I don't know.
No, I mean, that's completely accurate. And, on top of your point as well of like the world and how cool it is, one thing I liked as well is like Life is Strange, when you had like the display of like the writing of, say, where it would have like the little squiggly lines and the handwritten things. I thought that was really cool because that's almost like it's taken out of Max's journal and put into the world. And I thought this was really cool as well. Like a lot of the displays looked like they were almost collaged from like 90s rock magazines. You had like a lot of pinks and like punk writing and stuff going on. And I just thought, yeah, like again, another little cool feature that they've done really well. And the next section, I want to talk about the world a little bit of Velvet Cove, like the graphics, the kind of like the music, the style, the locations. On this channel, like, we've done a video in the past of like, if you examine items, if like that should like hold relevance to the story. Sometimes it can feel overwhelming going through like large environments, or like even Swan's bedroom where you can almost look at everything, and a lot of it is just stuff like, oh, I like this movie, And when I played games such as like Life is Strange 2, where I'm not shy to admit, I did sort of like not have the same enthusiasm that I did in that world than I did in Arcadia Bay. I was wondering if maybe it's the fact that I'm a little bit older, I'm a little less patient with these games, and I kind of just want to get a move on with things, I don't know. But for some reason, going through Velvet Cove, I didn't mind it as much because I fell in love with the world so much that I was actually more than happy to kind of like, do the whole like moments of reflection, if you will, when I did in Life is Strange Double Exposure. And I don't know, I just really kind of enjoyed, like you say, picking up objects, interacting with it, building the lore of the world. I just felt they did a spot on job, and it actually kind of made me kind of fall in love with that thing that I originally had that Arcadia Bay gave me. I don't know if you felt the same, because I was concerned, and I think I mentioned it in my stream, that I wonder how Jack's going to get on with this. Like with all these items it's throwing at you, man.
Yeah, I think it is established that I am pretty impatient. But you know what? It's funny because obviously I've said my criticisms, right? But the exploration, which I thought was going to be a concern, wasn't the main concern that I've ultimately come out with, which I think you can say is a good thing. What I would say, because there are certain locations I really enjoyed reveling in. Certainly in the woods, like when you're by the lake, you get to see the ducks and the squirrels and the birds and all that sort of thing. That was really good. Swan's room, also really good, and it's nice that you can go in there and change your outfit and not have outfits locked behind a certain DLC, Deck 9. But I think that they were really good. I do see instances at times where I'm looking at an object and I'm going, okay, was this a pointless exercise? There are other times though when I pick something up, and I think it was in Swan's room, there was like a secret stash, and you unfolded this letter, and I think she started to write a horror novel, and it then came up with a choice later on, and I think you could decide what sort of horror novel it was going to be, whether it was going to involve a cryptid or like a psychological horror. And maybe we could insert this into like the theory video, but like one of my little theories was this: could this be a thing where like almost her story is unraveling before her eyes a little bit, or maybe that was a choice where it dictates what potential threat that we're going to face later on? This is all things that I was thinking like early on in the episode. So I do appreciate those objects, because those objects can be thought-provoking, whereas the ones where you pick up, you inspect it and you drop it are the ones that I do have issue with.
Yeah, of course, like, even like if it's like shaking a little cow toy and getting a trophy out of it, but it's like, yeah, there is a lot like that is overwhelming. And also, just to put a pin on that for a minute, and to go back to your comment about like the wardrobe, I did find that it almost was like a little middle finger to Deck 9 and Life is Strange, that not only do we have all the outfits, that isn't like, being charged 20 to 30 quid more. But on top of that, it's given us a cat that we can freely pet in the 30 quid
Yeah.
game. And I was like, I don't know if that is a middle finger to Life is Strange, but like, and we talk value for money, right? Life is Strange Double Exposure was 50 to 80 pounds, British pounds, depending on what edition you played. And everyone firmly agreed, going deluxe or ultimate, definitely not worth the price. Lost Records just was one game, gave you everything for 30 quid, mate. But not only that, but you don't have to pay any more for Take 2. We're just going to get that free. So Take 1, if you break it down, it's like a 15 quid game technically, right? Now, I think for the world we got, value for money, that is just brilliant. That's really generous, because I actually feel they could have got away with charging way more than they did.
Oh, 100% agreed. 100% agreed. And even then, I don't know if it's still, as of recording, it's the 4th of March, so it might not be anymore. But they even had like a 10% discount, didn't they, if you like order it within a certain window. So do you know what I mean? Like, you're paying just over 30 quid for this game, nearly paid double for Double Exposure, and as well, Double Exposure probably will have a shorter run time as well. So in terms of value for money, yeah, like, you can't go wrong. Both games are beautiful as well. I'd argue that at the moment, in terms of like the repetitiveness of the locations, they are kind of similar. We'll have to see what Take 2 delivers. So yeah, by all accounts, I think Lost Records does trump Double Exposure in that sense.
Massively so. And I just want to talk a little bit more about the world and the locations which you just mentioned. I thought the graphics were incredible. Like, where you're just kind of walking through like the woods to film the music video, and you have like the sun beaming through the trees. I thought it was just absolutely fantastic. I thought they got the 90s nostalgia spot on with like the movie rentals and just the music they had playing. But on top of that, one location which really stood out to me is when you're looking for Autumn's Keys, where you've almost got like the purple sky and then kind of like the blue playground at night. I just absolutely fell in love with the world. And don't get me wrong, Arcadia Bay has this place in my heart that I don't know if it can get topped. But I would go as far to say as like Velvet Cove came very close, because the 90s nostalgia just kind of gave it that extra layer of brilliance for me. And like I say, I'm yet to play Life is Strange 3, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about Safe Haven, I believe it's called. But like, like Velvet Cove, graphics, the world, I'm actually just in awe of. But okay, guys, I mean, that is going to be the end of the analysis video. I think to summarize, Jack and I pretty much think that like the characters can be improved a little bit, like they're dynamic, the story and the pacing can do a bit of tweaking, a bit of like sharpening up. But in terms of like the world and the gameplay, it's brilliant. And yeah, I'm like really, like sold by the world of Velvet Cove, and I can't wait to get into Take 2, to be honest. Like we say, guys, we're going to be doing a lot of videos on Lost Records coming forward. Check out our channel. We've got a lot of polls coming out. Contribute to that, and we'll be doing separate videos from it to get your reactions. And there's plenty around the corner. We're going to be doing loads of videos on theories, Easter eggs, what Take 2 we can expect from it. But otherwise, Jack, anything else to mention?
Yeah, I feel like, you know what? I'm glad we did this, because I feel like at the start I probably leaned slightly more on the negative. But having gone through the conversation, there is actually a lot more positives to glean. I do still stick with my original thing, though, that a lot of it hinges on Take 2, because this obviously did take a long time to set up to get to that cliffhanger. But I'd say, over the course of this hour, I do feel slightly more positive about Lost Records than I did. So maybe like a 5.5, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I'm going to go 7 or 8, but like you say, like that can change with Take 2, Take 2 can undo all of that, it can make all of that, and it can like edge the grade upwards. One like final question I want to ask you. If you had to rank the Life is Strange games you've played so far with Lost Records in there, from least favourite to favourite, what is your order?
Ooh, least favourite to favourite. Least favourite, Life is Strange 2. Then I would say Double Exposure. Exposure, then I'd say Lost Records, then Before the Storm, then Life is Strange 1.
Yeah, I think mine's very similar. I think I'd say Double Exposure bottom, then Life is Strange 2. And then Before the Storm, like, is on par with Lost Records, but I feel like maybe the recency bias and the fact that it is a game for me, filled with 90s nostalgia, punk music, lo-fi, and video editing, I think I will, for now, just give the edge to Lost Records. But then, yeah, Life is Strange 1, that is the supreme game. And it can be top still, but a lot is hinging on how they're going to handle Take 2. But guys, that is the end of the video. Be sure to like this video, hit the bell, subscribe, all that lovely jazz, because we're going to be, like I said, doing so many Lost Records videos. If you enjoy games like this, Supermassive Games, Telltale, Quantic Dream, we cover it all on the channel. But for now, guys, we will see you in hell.
Catch you later.